Something that did make me feel uncomfortable that I do remember as I was writing this as well was I should have seen a bit of the signs where he did kind of push boundaries, or when I would ask him to not do something, there was always like pushback in terms of like he would take off his pants and just have, and then like, because it's like uncomfortable, or take off his jeans because it was uncomfortable, right? And then I was kind of like, put it back on, like you're not getting, like you're, that's not it, sort of thing. He's like, but it's uncomfortable, and it's like, so there's like pushback. So that was something that I didn't let him do that, but like the fact that there was like, I was trying to tell him no and he kept giving this back and forth with me was very frustrating. And that happened a lot, not just like in terms of that, but just in a lot of things that we did. If I said I wasn't uncomfortable with something, he would make it hard for me to say no to him, because it's like yeah, just a lot of back and forth in general thing where you just want to clout chase and you're just doing it for attention and just a bandwagon. It was, yeah, really insane to see people say that, but it made me wonder, like, if people like read the whole statement or not. It was like kind of frustrating. I think some people didn't read it, and maybe they just read like the first two paragraphs and it was like, oh, this is too long, like I can't read the rest of it. But I don't think when you flirt, you would flirt your way into your friend's sleeve and like touch a very uncomfortable area that is like near, you know, even if I were to like, the fact that I feel like I have to do is like to somewhat demonstrate like how hard it is to go into someone's sleeve. Like you have to like these you have to like, what you have to do. It is not like a, oh, casually brush like my hand against you. It is like a very invasive, like weird thing that no friend would ever like. Do you do this to your friends? I don't know. It's like, okay, sorry, I shouldn't have to justify this or try to like explain why it wasn't okay. And I remember I was at a rave and this girl actually came up to me, and she wasn't the first one that I heard of who was afraid of how we saw her because of what Fed would tell us about her. She basically was someone who was talking to Fed, and Fed was super interested in this girl, and he even came up to me and he said like, I think she's like the one. And he was telling me about all these things that he liked about her. And then I don't know what happened, but at some point he was just like, oh yeah, she just led me on. But I take what he says with a grain of salt, because there's been history of him, like just me not being able to fully trust him. So, and I was right, because this girl came up to me at the rave that we were at, and she was very sad, and she was just like, I hope you guys like don't think badly of me. I heard that Fed told you guys that I led him on and stuff like that, and she was just saying that wasn't the case. And she's, yeah, so again, just felt really bad that she was worried we would see her a certain way because of what he tells us. If I don't know if this whole thing ever would have happened, or if I would have ever told anyone at offlinetv if Toast didn't guess it. So yeah, Toast actually, he I think he noticed there was something kind of off about us because we were very close. I can't remember how it started exactly, but Toast was just like what's wrong? And kind of, was it, he guessed if it was Fed, and then he guessed like, and I even wasn't even gonna say it then, and I don't know if I would have ever said anything, but he asked if like Fed did anything to me. and I cracked, and I told him, and it was like a weight off of my shoulders because I haven't told anyone in offline TV. This was like months later too, like months and months after it happened, because I was very scared that it would get out and that offline TV would just die. And I didn't want that. I didn't want something that involved me to be like the cause of that. I remember like I was kind of bothered because this whole time I never felt like I got a genuine apology from him. Actually, to be honest, even up until like the intervention, or even like at the intervention when he apologized to me, it was still a little bit hard for me to believe because of all the broken trust that's happened in the past. But he messaged me today or last night, and this was when like everything was out already, you know, the statements were out. Yvonne like wrote her statement, or explained her statement and everything, and he wrote me a message, and at the end he said, I'm so sorry. And I don't think he has anything to gain from that, especially when everything is out already. So I believe that like he's, even if I don't know if he's gonna be a better person in the future, and I can't see the future, but I feel like he'll at least make the effort. So avoid like harassing or hating him if hating on him if possible. There's already a lot of bad comments and hateful stuff out there. I don't think any more will help him change for the better.
Like Fed has like, there's so many issues going on that we don't know how to address, and that it's been clear that there's so many things with him, and yeah, and so it was a lot of fear from everyone about breaking the peace, and you know, it's like if things go bad with Fed, then like what happens? Fed leaves OTV, like what happens? Like those thoughts were like terrifying. Like you don't want to be that reason that this amazing group of content creators like has any problems. So I was very yeah, so I was very like cautious about that. Anyways, so that was just a side journey I had with him, or just a timeline of my feelings. And obviously, oh gosh, it feels so good to say this because I haven't this is obviously stuff I would never speak on stream ever. I would never say a bad word about Fed publicly because you know, you don't want to put that out there and get clipped and people are like, oh shoot, Leslie said this about Fed, okay, drama, you know.
It's okay. I don't really have much to say, to be honest, other than just like corroborating how you feel. And like there was that one time that, you know, right after they moved in, it was like it went from seeing Fed like almost every day to every other day to like not at all. And then it was a weird feeling of not knowing if we did something wrong or if they were just burned out by us. And it felt bad to like reach out because we didn't want to seem like clingy, I guess. And so we were just kind of, I personally felt like we were just like up in the air, because it really literally went, imagine like you had this really good friend and then one day they just stop talking to you completely, and then you're like not really sure why. And then there's like a kind of, you know, there is like a bit of like a power dynamic, because, you know, offline TV is really popular and they're really successful, and you don't want to like come off as like when you mix like business with friendship and stuff like this, it gets really complicated. Like you just want to play it safe, don't want to like overstep any boundaries and like potentially harm any relationships. I know that sounds like really fucked up in a way, because like you shouldn't have to worry about these things when you're friends with these people, but in reality it's like it's just something that's like on the back of our mind as we are navigating like being streamers and being friends at the same time. So I just remember being in the kitchen with Leslie and being like, hey man, I feel like I'm going crazy, but like do you feel like he's just kind of went like zero word, like just complete silence on us, just like out of nowhere. And then Leslie's like, yes, I was just talking about this with Edison. Like literally we were like thinking about these things at the same time. But then I thought I was going crazy. Leslie thought she was going crazy. We didn't say anything, like, and then we just I had my girlfriend to talk. I had no one to talk to about these things, and then Leslie had Edison to talk to. So, yeah. Yeah.
It's all really tricky. I understand the idea, like people are like, oh, you guys should keep this private and stuff. You guys saw what happened when we tried to protect him, like when like people like when we, like you saw, and I knew that Toast had talked to Fed a year ago and that his behavior didn't change, even though and he lashed out a year ago, and then following the intervention directly, he showed behavior people already talked about this, but that he showed no change instantly. We tried to bring as many people to the intervention because we wanted to prevent him from running, because he has this habit of when he would run to me. You guys remember that time on the Offline TV podcast when they said something to Fed and he got triggered, and he called me on stream crying, and he put me in a really hard situation because he's crying to me and I'm like, hey Fed, I'm streaming. He goes, I know, keep streaming. And I'm like, what? And he's like, they make me feel like shit, yada, 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 right? And so I'm in this really awkward situation of having to comfort him, but also on the other side, OTV's like, please end the stream, please stop talking, please, and I'm just I felt so upset. So I just said, hey, please, can you, I have to go. I forgot how I ended that, but I was in such an awkward situation in that point, and I was really mad at him for putting me in that situation, for seeing that I was on stream, calling me, putting me in that situation. And stuff like that, right? And he has a thing for going to run. At the Just Friends house, we knew he would come to our house all the time, always in a bad mood, and it was always because it was oh, Fed's over. Stuff with Pokey or OTV's not good right now. That was it. He would run away. He would run away constantly, and then while he's there, he's just spreading bad vibes about OTV, which would slowly start to push us away from them. I'd start to have these really negative thoughts about Pokey. I really thought wow, she's driving him crazy, poor guy. Man, I had all these negative thoughts about her, and I apologized to her directly about not talking to her in the moment, instead just believing everything Fed was saying, because at the moment, Fed is my close friend, And so he and so if you're wondering why a lot of this stuff had to be aired publicly, and it's because that was the only way we'd see Fed change, because we had tried to address things publicly, and instantly with the intervention, he went running to all the people who weren't at the intervention, victimizing himself. And I don't know what my place is to say, actually, so I'm not going to say it and more stuff, but there's a reason it had to be aired. And in this moment, I didn't know what of my story that I felt I didn't want to pour gasoline, but I talked to Skara, I talked to the girls, I talked to people. I asked them, should I just say nothing or should I say my side? And then they said anything that will help you gain closure here is your right to say. Anything that you think, yeah. And so I'm sorry if I'm saying too much, or I'm sorry if for making fuel to the fire.
Don't feel guilty about that.
I just want to be done with this after. I just want to say my piece. It's been, and I don't, at the same time, I feel really bad about it.
I mean, at the end of the day, we care about him.
Yeah.
It's just hard because we hoped that it wouldn't have to come to this.
Yeah.
Because, you guys were talking about, you guys gave him the private intervention.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that you could see some change happen from there. But, that's just not how it panned out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys aren't seeing this as we're just going to shit on Fed because we feel good about shitting on Fed. It's just important because a lot of these experiences have gone silent. No one knew. You guys heard where they had that girls' night out, and then each of those girls had their own private issue that they had with Fed that they didn't know that the others were experiencing.
Yeah.
So it's important that these things come to light, and that to potentially warn others of this sort of behavior. You know what I mean? So it's not just to farm the drama. Really have been. I won't say we, because I personally haven't been affected by Fed on the level that they have, for sure. But they have been really trying hard to protect Fed and look out for his best interests and really try to solve this behind the scenes. But it just didn't work out.
And then the last thing that I just want to touch on one more thing he did that I was a witness to, but it really disturbed me. So we went to an event. I don't know because I'm not going to include the girl's name because I didn't ask for her permission. We went to an event. We Fed likes to plan when we go to a rave and stuff. So we went to a rave, and Fed, a couple days before the rave, he's on his phone and he's showing me a streamer, and he's like, dude, what do you think? I'm like, what do you mean, what do you think? she's like pretty, right? And I'm like, yeah, she's pretty. And then he's like, okay, like we're talking. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, and he's like, yeah, we played League, played this, whatever, you know. I'm like, okay, cool, right? You know, hope things don't work out. Like, I don't know, just showed him that she's pretty, I guess. He wanted like approval. So then he, we all planned to go to this rave together. So when we get to the rave, or to the Airbnb, he shows up with this girl, and he basically, we didn't know she was coming. And we're like, oh, she's here. And he's like, oh yeah, I last minute invited her. Is that cool? I'm like, yeah, sure, that's fine. Like, yeah, like, okay, cool. Hey, you know? So she's with us. And I'm trying to say this without saying her name. I was gonna leak something. I'm just trying to keep it vague. But, so she's with us, and she was fun. We were just like chilling and stuff. We go to the rave the first night, and, basically, I think that's where like they like, I don't want to say too much. Okay, they were like trying things out, but it didn't work apparently. Or yeah, so Fed comes to my room right before I fall asleep, and he's like, hey, by the way, like things with this girl, like I don't like her anymore. Like she's like not like, he immediately starts bashing her name. And I'm like, whoa, what things didn't work out? He's like, yeah, I'm not into her at all. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Sometimes things don't work out. And he's like, I'm just, so he's like, she's weird. He starts like attacking her like character and like making her seem really weird. And I was like, okay, well, what do we do? She's here with us. And he's like, I'm just gonna like pretty much like not talk to her. And I'm like, oh, so you're gonna just like, yeah. So he ghosts her for the rest of the weekend in person. He stops talking to her entirely, avoids her. We're in the same Airbnb the whole weekend. Like, this is his guest. So all of a sudden she's like clinging to us, and she's like, hey, and she's being cool and stuff. We're like, hey, I'm like, I don't know you that well, but like, you know what? I'll be your friend, because I see that the person who brought you here is completely ignoring you. So I was like, this is so rude, right? Am I crazy? I just felt like it was so rude. And I kept the thoughts to myself, because I was like, whatever. I was just like, you know what? I'll just hang out with her for now. And she made friends with everyone. And then on the last day, it's morning and everyone's checking out. Me and Edison are running around picking up things that we like left, or just making sure everything was good before checkout. And we go downstairs, and so we said bye. A lot of people said bye. We go downstairs, and like everyone is gone, including Fed, and like his guest is there, and she's like, can I get a ride? And I'm like, yeah, of course you can get a ride. And I'm like, why would you leave her here? Why would you leave before the girl you invited? What?
I remember that.
It was so rude. And that was something that hella triggered me. I was like, sure. So me and Edison drove her down, and we dropped her off at this place, and then she got picked up and made sure she had a ride and everything. But like, I was like, dude, if that doesn't show you like how poorly he treated someone, like, and I think the frustrating thing is that he would continuously like get away with these things, like very easily get off with things, and everyone would just excuse his behavior and stuff because he paid for the escape. I'll never say it was escape. He paid for the escape Airbnb. Okay.
You were so close.
I know. Whatever.
You were so close.
Okay. Whatever.
That's okay. It's okay.